Hello, and welcome back. Welcome back to the 10 Within. Okay, you guys, it's been a hot minute since I've had time to record an episode. I feel like life has just been so insanely busy. I feel like I say that on a repeat. Maybe it's just my life. I don't know anybody else out there. It just feels like life is just chaotic 24/7. And I'm like, I don't believe that's how God intended it. But I have not had a chance to record just because I've been gone. So my daughter, my youngest daughter, she is a barrel racer, and we went out to Vegas for a week, and we were doing a competition out there. And she actually ended up qualifying for a race that we weren't really expecting her to qualify for. So ended up forcing us to stay out there longer than expected. But today's episode, I really want to talk about being single all the way. This is really the first Christmas per se that you could say that I've been single. Jimmy died obviously in May of 2021, and I didn't really consider myself single, I guess you could say. I considered myself a widow. I considered myself still married, but just like in this very odd transition. But 4 years later, this time in my life, I just feel like I'm actually single. It honestly feels really strange. So I don't know who's out there listening can relate, but obviously I was in a relationship since I was 17 years old. So being alone is something that I'm really trying to get used to. And I think that's really something that I wanted to dive deep into because I feel like I'm definitely not alone when it comes to this topic and when it comes to, the uncomfortableness maybe, or just I don't even say loneliness, but just being alone is a hard thing for a lot of people. And, I've talked to girlfriends and I've talked to friends, and I think a lot of people date often and jump into a lot of relationships. It's just because they have a hard time being alone. And so for this season of my life is I'm really trying to embrace being alone and enjoying my own company and just enjoying my own life by myself. And in my whole life, even when I was a teenager, I've always had a lot of friends. So I always had best friends. I'd always have somebody like a partner, right? That would always be with me. So if it wasn't with my mom, to a best friend, to then my late husband, I think that there's never really been a time in my life where I've actually spent time alone. And, a lot of that for me had to go with anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety growing up, and I know I talked about that in a previous podcast. And whenever I was alone, it would ultimately put me in like a state of panic. I remember when I got my driver's license at 16 years old, and I remember my best friend lived in Temecula. And just the very beginning of like driving from my house in Wildemar to Temecula, I had such bad anxiety, even just for that 15-minute stretch of time because I was alone. It was just this almost like an anxious, uncomfortable feeling. Now, I am very headstrong and stubborn, so I would never not drive and like subside to the anxiety. I'd always push through, but it was just always really uncomfortable, and then I just remember, my mom would leave when I was younger in the mornings to go to the gym, and I remember feeling anxious. So it was like any time that I felt like I got left alone, I would get super, super anxious and just these overwhelming feelings of panic attacks. And so this season of my life, it's kind of crazy because when Jimmy passed away, I never felt anxious. Like I never felt like, oh my gosh, that anxiety. And I believe that truly came from God and came from healing. I think he put me on this journey of healing, and I was able to overcome my anxiety. Honestly, just a couple years prior to him passing away. And I feel like God always has such a great plan because had I of lived in that state of anxiety, even when I was in my early 20s, like when Jimmy would leave for work in the morning, he would get up for work at like 4 or 5 a.m. It was still dark outside. As soon as he would leave, like I couldn't lay there and relax. Like I felt so uncomfortable, so anxious. So I'd have to get up and stay busy. It was so crazy how I just never knew how to be alone. And so he passed away. And I have to say, I wasn't looking to fulfill that being alone void in the sense of like anxiousness. Like I wasn't fearful of being alone when it came to like an anxiety standpoint, but I definitely had a hard time being alone in the sense of just doing life. Like I didn't want to do it by myself. I didn't want to not have a partner. I didn't want to, do these trips alone. And I didn't want to, be at home alone. And I didn't want to, sit on the couch at night and watch a movie alone. I always wanted somebody there. And again, I'd never experienced my own company by myself because I'd always had somebody with me. And so this season of my life, being single, I really have been making it like very intentional on enjoying my company, enjoying my own company, enjoying being alone, and just really embracing it. And I have to say that it takes effort for me. Like it doesn't come naturally. And so, it definitely is easy to spiral into that like, oh, woe is me mentality. And so, I am very mindful of what I tell myself and I'm very intentional about letting myself, wander there. But a prime example was just this last week when we were in Vegas, me and Chloe and her friend Savannah, we drove out to Vegas alone. And again, I say alone, it's me and two my daughters, they're 14 years old. So, obviously I'm not alone. However, I am the adult and the one responsible, for everything and everybody. And so, we go out to Vegas, we get the horses checked in to some offsite barn and get the trailer dropped and unhooked and, go in and check into our hotel and, kind of just navigate everything by yourself. And, it's different when you've always been in a relationship and you've always had a partner is because you kind of sometimes, I think, especially as a female, I feel like I've always kind of dropped into that like role of just letting my husband handle things, right? Just kind of like in the feminine role is like I wouldn't even think about booking the hotel because my late husband would have always done that. I wouldn't have thought of like all the details of like having to, do all the logistics of where's the horses going to go and where's the horse trailer going to park and how are we going to check in the car and how are we going to make the schedule and all of the time I never had to wear that role because my late husband was really good at planning and that was what he enjoyed doing, so I always just kind of showed up. And now that I'm having to be the lead role here, it's something totally different. And not that it's a negative thing at all, but it is just different. And it's really trying to embrace it rather than let myself, because I catch myself, just almost being like envious of other people. I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's so much work to do this by myself. And, focusing on like the negative. And I constantly check myself and say, you know what, Lonnie? God has you here for a reason. God put you in this position for a reason. Embrace it, learn from it, use it, help this to make me grow and become the person that He wants me to become. And so it's constantly changing my mindset and really shifting and focusing on like, hey, what are the positives of this, and ultimately it's been really fun because number one is it's been so much quality time with my daughter. My oldest daughter is 19 and she's obviously has her own life now and her own career and her boyfriend and their friend group, and she obviously has built her whole life. She's pretty independent. She has her thing going on. And so, my youngest daughter obviously is only 14. And so we have a lot of quality time together. And this has been such a fun season because I'm blessed enough to be in a situation to where I can pretty much work from anywhere, right? I can build what I'm building from Vegas. I can build what I'm building from horse shows. I can do what I'm doing on the go. And so what we've been able to do is do a lot of quality, fun things together. And just doing this rodeo travel world with her, I think is just going to be such a memorable part of both of our lives and really like molding and developing, her as a human and being that influence and role model in her life and just really being able to spend this quality time. So instead of sitting there and thinking of all the things that I don't have, if I don't have a spouse and how I'm tired and how it's so much work and, it's really easy to spiral down the negative path of to remind myself like, wow, I have my health. I am blessed to be able to take my daughter on these adventures. I am blessed to have the capability of towing a trailer and getting the horses out here and taking the lead and really making this a fun trip for us and doing fun things to enjoy this time while we have it together, that I do have to constantly remind myself and check myself to not let myself go into that negative place, but to stay in the positive place. When we were in Vegas, we, did all these things. We checked in, went to the Cowboy Christmas, and my mom and her sister came up and my stepdad. And so, they were there for 2 of the 6 days that I was there. And, that was fun to be able to spend time with them. But when they'd left, my daughter at 14 years old, I'm sure you guys can relate, they would rather stay up in the hotel room and scroll on their phones than go do anything else. And so, it's like 6, 7 o'clock and, I've already done a workout, and now I'm just like walking around Vegas by myself. And it was just such a surreal moment for me. And I don't know if you can relate with this, but I have to say in my entire 40 years of my life that this was the very first time in my life where I felt like I was truly alone and genuinely enjoying my own company, right? Like I just remember walking around the strip, going downstairs and gambling and just meeting people and talking to people and just kind of being social and just being comfortable being completely alone. I walked into this bar because they were playing the NFR and I sat down, I had a glass of wine and I was just sitting there by myself. And, again, learning to be comfortable in your own skin in a public environment like that, especially in Vegas, like it would be really easy, I feel like, to talk yourself into just feeling uncomfortable. But I just kept making myself embrace it. I just kept saying, to myself like this is something that I've never done before. This is new. This is a cool experience. Like the freedom that I felt of just being able to do whatever I wanted. And I've never had that before, because again, being in a relationship at 17, you're always mindful of other people's feelings, and being a mom really young, you're always mindful of your kids. But my oldest daughter is like an adult at this point, and my youngest is not overly that young. Like they don't need me as much. And so having the freedom to just do what I want to do is different for sure, and different in a good way. So I'd say the lesson that I learned, and this maybe be a lesson that hopefully I can share with you guys. And I don't know, maybe I'm an oddball out. And maybe you're like listening to this and like, really, like you have a hard time being by yourself. But I can't even think that there was like maybe one or two times in my life that I've went and like sat in a restaurant and had dinner by myself. Like I would have never done that. I would have never gone anywhere by myself. So if you're that person that's like, oh, I love being alone and I love doing things all by myself, like that is like mad props to you, because for me, it was a conscious decision to like embrace it and to step out of my comfort zone and do things that I've never done before and just go and enjoy my own thing all by myself. And I have to say, like, it was very enjoyable. It was very relaxing and peaceful. And, I met some cool people and just really enjoyed it. And so, if there's anything that I can share with you, is if you feel like you have a hard time being alone, I would say book a trip where you go somewhere by yourself, even if it's for like 24 hours, 48 hours. I don't care if it's like a hotel. Just go check into the room by yourself, get there, park by yourself, check in by yourself, go up to your room, get yourself situated, go walk downtown, go sit down at a restaurant, order yourself a meal. Just go embrace being alone. And there's something so powerful, I want to say, or empowering, maybe is a better word, that spending quality time with you and really being mindful and saying, hey, look, like I enjoy myself and my time and my company. And really, when you're by yourself, it really kind of makes you look up and stay like focused on what's around you. I think, again, when you have a friend or a relationship or even children, like you're so preoccupied on everyone else, is that we never really look up. And I did make it a point to say, hey, I don't want to sit here and scroll on my phone and sit here and be completely checked out. Is I made it a point to almost sit in the uncomfortableness of being alone and no distractions, not the distraction of scrolling, not the distraction of other people, but just sit there and really embrace it. And, just having like conversation, there was like an older gentleman in there and he was traveling for work. And, he was just sharing with me that he was like almost an energy healer, kind of reminded me of Lupita. And that, he was a comedian and he was just always on the road, and just kind of shared me with me his life story. And, just little conversations that I had with people, and just those connections of just meeting new people. I mean, obviously we'd never see these people again in our lives, but it was just something so cool and different and unique that I've never done before. So I have to say that I would say 10 out of 10, I highly recommend that you find a time in your life where you just go spend quality time with you. And it doesn't have to be all the time, but just to say you've done it, I think is something that we all should do. We all should be comfortable with. And I feel like I've had a conversation with just a few people, and there's a handful of my friends that are like, yeah, absolutely, I'd go do that, no problem. And then I have a few friends that were like, absolutely not. Like I would not want to go do those things by myself. I would want a friend or a partner or a child, somebody to be with me. Like I wouldn't want to just go do that alone. Like it'd be so uncomfortable. So I say step out of your comfort zone and take a step into the growth of self. love and being around yourself and just really spending that one-on-one quality time, because it was a really cool experience, I have to say. And so we got home from Vegas. Gosh, we were there for 6 days, and I was really proud of myself, honestly, just for embracing the trip and making it a really good trip. We had a lot of fun. Me and Chloe and Savannah, we had a lot of fun just hanging out, walking the strip, and just doing things together as, a mom hanging out with two children. And again, that is so not usually my MO. I swear I've always, my whole life, kind of been more of friends or relationships or partners or family, where I feel like I've never really had a lot of like focused quality time with just me and the girls. And that might be terrible to say, and you guys can maybe judge me for that one if you would like, but it is the truth. The truth is I've always had a hard time focusing on just the kids. I've always been focused on adults or my life and what was fun for me. And so focusing and changing that focus on like being a trip for them, and we're there for the kids and there for Chloe, and doing things that were just probably not really something that was ultimately fun for me per se, but just embracing it was a really cool thing. So being single this time of year, I feel like definitely has just its mixed emotions, but I do again believe that taking control of the thoughts and taking control of what you tell yourself. And it would be really easy to be like, oh, woe is me. I'm all by myself, and this is really hard, and this is really sad, and this is really lonely, and, kind of put this dark cloud over my head. Or to constantly just remind myself, like, hey, look, this is a season of your life that you've never been in before. Embrace it. This is a new season. This is a new chapter. This is a great opportunity for growth. Do this thing and make it fun, make it memorable, make it enjoyable. And I made sure to tell myself the positives that I was getting out of this experience rather than the negatives. And so we came home and, went and got a Christmas tree and got the house all decorated for Christmas. And again, it's so important, my friends, if you're out there listening, is to be very intentional on what it is that you tell yourself, during the season of time. Because I do believe that the holidays, especially when you had a transition in your life and you've gone through a breakup or you've gone through a loss of a spouse, I'll never forget my very first Christmas without Jimmy. Again, like I was saying, I didn't feel single, but I felt lonely, and I felt really heavy and really sad and just really just kind of lost, right? Like it just, the whole tradition of Christmas and everything just looked and felt so different. Like I didn't even want to celebrate the holiday. And so I caught myself feeling that way going into this holiday season of just, looking around and being like, wow, like this life that I'm living is not the life that I envisioned. I laugh and say, okay, January Loni would have never in a million years expected me to be in the position that I'm in. I would have never expected the outcome of this year to be the outcome. It was completely shocking and ultimately like just mind blowing to me to think like, oh my gosh, like going into this year, I was planning a wedding and I was building a house and we were building a business and we had all of these things going on. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, like how on earth does things change so drastically in such a short amount of time? And I remember feeling like this heaviness over me of just, almost like a sadness. And then I was really like giving it to God. And I was like, okay, Lord, like, don't let myself go there. Like, you put me in this situation. You brought me to this place because I asked you to bring me to this place. You have me right where you want me, and I want to embrace it. I want to be grateful for it. I want to understand it. I want to trust. I want to trust that everything in my life is simply because God wanted me here. And I believe that with all of my heart. And so I genuinely believe, you guys, if you are in a place in your life and you just feel like you're a little bit confused or just a little bit, not sure what's happening or what decisions to make or what's meant for you and what's not meant for you, I'm telling you, if you ask God to remove the things that are not meant for you and to bring the things in your life that are, God 100% will deliver. So you have to be careful what you ask for, because he may put you in a situation that you possibly weren't ready for, that you weren't thinking was going to be the outcome. But when you ask, man, God will deliver and he will respond. And so I believe, because I genuinely ask God, God, put me where you want me. Show me, guide me. Where do you want me in my life? What path is meant for me? I'm telling you, overnight, God showed me and put me on a whole different trajectory. And it was a very hard transition, but once you get there, you embrace it. And so your emotions sometimes have to catch up. So you are going to feel mixed emotions for sure. And that is normal. Like that is okay. You are going to sometimes feel like this little cloud over your head of just like, oh, this is so sad. Oh, this is a hard season. Oh, I'm missing this, or oh, I'm missing that. But when you go back to your mindset and you say, okay, I asked, God delivered, and it's my job to embrace. We can always find the negative in something, or we can always find the positive in something. It's just, what are you choosing to look to see? I could easily focus on all this being a negative, and I could easily spiral this to, oh my gosh, woe is me, and I'm such a victim, and my life has been so hard, and why is this all happening to me, and blah 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 blah. Or like I choose to do every single day as I wake up and I give my life to God and I say, Lord, I'm on your path. Bless me, continue to guide me. And I'm appreciative of where I'm at in my life. I'm appreciative of the lessons. I'm appreciative of the growth. I'm appreciative of the reflecting time that I have. This is the only time in my 40 years of my life that I've actually ever had time to just myself, to do whatever I want, to literally live my own life. And yes, obviously my children take a lot of my time, but I'm talking like in a relationship standpoint when it comes to being like an individual, right? I'm an adult woman with 2 children, and yes, their schedules and their needs definitely come first. However, as your kids get older, as you know, those needs become less and less and less, and you really get to start to focus on your needs as well. And so really filling my own cup and dumping into me and really falling in love with who I am and enjoying my own company and enjoying this alone time has been such an incredible life experience, something I've never experienced before. And that's why I feel like I'm so passionate about sharing with you guys. I don't care. You don't have to be single per se to enjoy yourself. You don't have to get out of a relationship by any means. But if you want to truly step into that true self-love of loving yourself, of getting to know yourself, of understanding yourself, you have to take that alone time to be able to check in with yourself and talk to yourself and get to know you and stop being so distracted by everything and everybody else that even if you are in a relationship, having time to yourself is so important. And that's something that I never really gave myself. I never really gave myself quality alone Loni time. In the 20 years that I was with Jimmy, never once did I go and check in on a vacation alone or go into a hotel or go on a trip or do anything by myself. That now, moving forward in my life, I don't care even what relationship I get in, I think having alone times, and I'm not talking all the time, but I'm saying maybe like a 24-hour, getaway alone to go just have like a reboot of Loni check-in quality time, of just downtime, of just focusing on me time, a few times a year, honestly, I think is so important. So if you find yourself literally not liking to be alone, never really experienced being alone, don't even know how to go have a meal alone, like you're just always surrounded by kids or friends or a relationship or a spouse or whoever, I challenge you to, very first step, just go walk into a restaurant and eat alone. Take it to the next step. Go check into a hotel for 24 hours and just be alone. Give yourself that alone quality time. Walk outside. Don't stay on your phone. Don't be like a hermit, but go into the public. Go meet people. Go socialize. Go just have conversation with complete strangers and go embrace just being alone and the world. That there's something about it that was so just special and just felt so different. So if you've never experienced that, I highly, highly recommend that you do. And so going into this holiday season, if I can encourage you with anything, if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling, like maybe your family unit has broken or things have changed in your life, just really be intentional and mindful of what story you're telling yourself every single day. Yes, you can victimize your situation, or you can embrace it and you can say, hey, like, this is a challenging season in my life. What am I supposed to learn and take away? And how can I grow and develop from this situation in my life? Show me, God, what I need to learn in this season of my life, and look for the gratitude in things. Look for whatever it is that you can be grateful for in this moment. Every single day, choose 5 things. Say, okay, I'm grateful for a healthy body. I'm grateful for a roof over my head. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for this holiday season. I'm grateful that I have, food on the table or breath in my lungs. Whatever it is, find something every single day where you can focus that you can be grateful for, and change that energetic shift from woe is me to wow, I'm excited to embrace this season. And I promise you, so many things in your life will change. You will start to feel this empowerment and this joy and this peace and this comfort come over your life. So try it. I challenge you to try it. Enjoy, embrace being alone. Just know this season is just a season, just like all seasons. Every season, I believe, is a season for us to use, to grow from, to embrace, to enjoy. Life is short. Enjoy the season that you're in, and just know that the season is not going to last forever. So, on that note, I am off to go take my daughter to her horse riding lesson. I really hope that you all have a Merry Christmas and that everybody is safe and enjoys their time, whether if it's with family, friends, or by themselves. Don't let yourself go down that negative path. Enjoy this holiday season. Find things to be grateful for. We all have things that we can be grateful for. You just sometimes got to dig deep to find them. And I'm telling you, you will enjoy this season and you will remember this season of your life. And it always, always, always is a journey. There's going to be highs and there's going to be lows. Enjoy it all. And just know if you're in a low, your high is coming. So embrace it. Have a Merry, Merry, Merry Christmas. And I will talk to you guys in the new year.